Let's sit down and listen to records. Smell the cover, read all the verses. Tell me about your favorites on Vinyl and Vision.
Hey folks, thanks for tuning in to the latest episode of Vinyl and Vision. Here we are with episode 131. Today's very special guest is Thor Harris. I am very excited to bring this conversation to you today. I am a very, very big fan of Thor and the many projects that he has been a part of over the course of his career. From Shearwater, which is the first time I actually got to meet him and share a stage with him, opening for that band in probably like 2006, I think it was. All the way up to now, where he is a solo artist in a sense. Thor and Friends is the group that he fronts that releases records through Joyful Noise. He's also been a part of just so many bands. I really kind of can't even begin to list the amount of projects he has been involved with, but huge names, amazingly great records. So many. I wish I could share them all with you, but maybe I'll provide a link in the show notes if you care to see his Discogs and you can kind of see all the albums he's involved with. But very, very cool. Thor shares with me today about the new Thor and Friends album coming out in May on Joyful Noise, and I was not expecting that, but that is cool to know. And he explains a little bit about it. Sounds like it's going to be very cool. If you're a fan of his project already, if you know the previous work, some of which you may be hearing right now if you're listening on the audio stream. Just wanted to give a heads up about this conversation. Unfortunately, when you do podcasts virtually, there is an internet factor, and we had some issues with our connection, so it moves a little slow in the first half. I mean, I tightened it up through production and all that, but there was some latency, and you might hear a little bit of kind of cutting out at times. But after the 20-minute mark, somewhere around there, it really kind of picks up. The internet started working better, and we started kind of having this very fluid and quick conversation, and it was just really great. Thor is such a amazing human being, so kind, so thoughtful, and incredibly creative. So I really got to pick his brain about music and inspiration. Why do we make music even? We got into that topic, which is a pretty interesting one, I think, from a musician's perspective. And just inspiration in general. It's pretty great. He shares, where some of the creativity comes from, and I think I'm going to be looking into it myself. Sounds awesome. So I had a great conversation with him. I'd like to thank him very much for taking the time and speaking with me. I'm very excited about this conversation and sharing it with you, and I hope that you really like it. And if you do, please do all the things you do with the internet is what we ask here. Like, share, subscribe, comment, rate, review, all of those things. They help us out immensely. And if you care to help us out in a financial way, you can always visit our website, psychicstatic.net. There is an online store there, which we sell records, and mostly records. Sell other things too, but mostly records. And there's a link there also to another platform where we sell, so there's even more things that we have that are available to you if you care to buy them. Anything there in the store helps us out. We also release some records on our own independent releases from local bands. And so any of those things help us out immensely, and we would really appreciate it. So thank you very much, folks. Enjoy.
Hi.
Hello, Thor Harris.
Yeah, hi. Can you see me?
I can. How are you?
Pretty all right.
Good, good.
How are
Is it
you? Where are you? Are you in New York?
no, Rhode Island? Close though.
Oh, I love Providence. That's where I usually play
Do you really? I haven't. I feel like
when
I
I'm
have
in.
not seen you in Providence in a long time, or at all in my history, aside from when you
You,
were playing with Shearwater, that is.
so I played there with Thor and Friends last summer, I think.
Really?
Um,
How did I miss this?
did a little um I don't know, but we might be back this summer.
Oh, cool.
And then also, you'll have that studio machines with magnets.
Yes, that is technically
I've
Pawtucket.
recorded there. Oh, it is.
Yeah.
I recorded I recorded there with a band of a band called
Medicine Singers.
there you go.
I love this album.
Yes.
You,
Um
you guys are great.
what?
You guys are great. I love this
Oh,
album.
thank you. Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, I saw that because I bought this record and I've actually spoken with Daryl.
Daryl, yeah.
Yeah, I
Daryl,
spoke.
yeah, he's a character.
He is. Yeah, he's great. I mean, and it's funny. I mean, and like I saw Medicine Singers like by chance. Like they were performing with Jonathan at this place in Providence, and like it was completely unannounced. Like I was just
Yeah.
going to this place to have pizza with my family. And some like the server comes by and she's just like, "Hey, do you guys like music?" And we're like, "Yeah." They're like, there's this band playing in the back. If you want to go see them." I'm like, "Is it free?" And they're like, "Yeah, they're just playing. They're going to be playing very soon." I'm like, "Okay." And like we just go to the backyard area of this brewery and it's Medicine Singers with Jonathan. Um, you were not there. It was just Jonathan and I don't know who the other instrumentalist is, the bass player, keyboardist.
Might have been Christopher Pravdika. He and I,
Yeah.
he's really brilliant. He and I were in Swans together for many,
Oh,
many, 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 many years.
right.
Um, I love him. We were also in that band Shoo Shoo together.
Oh,
XIU, XIU.
yeah, yeah. Cool. But yeah, Medicine Singers, I mean, it's just one of those great bands that you have been part of. I mean, like you've been part of many, obviously. Um,
Yeah, I think, like if there's, like, I think like a big reason that I've managed to be part of so many bands. I mean, I'm an all right musician, but like I'm an easy hang. I'm but it sure makes making music a lot easier if you really like genuinely love getting to know new weirdos.
yeah, absolutely. But you were saying how
Yeah.
the you know some of the fortune that you've had and playing with the number of bands and musicians that you have is because you're just an easy hang.
I'm an easy hang. And I mean, I've I just turned 60, and in kind of recent years, I've realized that I'm not entirely an extrovert, but I really do get excited um to meet new people, especially if there's some common interest, and music is often that common interest. And I think that that has been, as far as having worked with so many people over the years, I think that has been um my sort of superpower, is like the ability to like um sort of put people at ease, and just be comfortable around a lot of different kinds of people.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
that's true. It's definitely a skill to be able to just be compassionate towards people and understanding and kind of and just friendly in general. Not everyone can do it.
yeah, yeah, that's the thing. Compassion. Boy, howdy.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, like as far as, people that you've played with, I mean, like, do you always kind of know how, like, where you're gonna fit in that circumstance? I mean, like I don't want to pick out one example for this for the situation, but I mean, like if you meet somebody that's like, maybe for one of the first times and they know about you and they want to work with you. I mean, do you know how you're going to fit yourself into that equation with that musician by chance? Or, I mean, do you just feel it out?
I have to feel every different situation out, and I've gotten better at that as I've gotten older. Like I've gotten more okay just being the guy that's playing congas in the background or like shaking a maraca. And like I, it's sort of like when you're young, you want to like make your mark on
Mm.
music and become someone, often not realizing that you have a whole lifetime to do that. So whatever small role you may be playing in any given situation, I don't know. I've gotten better at accepting the small roles.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of what's the word? What's that word? Can't think of it right now. There's the humility, right? Like there's an amount of humility that you kind of have to know that like even the littlest part in a collaboration can be essential.
Yeah, yeah,
But I mean, but you also have
yeah. I've got
your own thing, your own band. I mean, you have Thor and Friends now, which is essentially revolves around you, and you are the focal point.
yeah. I think that really helped me to feel more okay because I still work with a whole bunch of people, but that having my own thing um helped me to be more okay with my various roles working with different people.
Yeah,
I mean, the whole point really is to sort of murder your ego so that you can just serve the music or the song or the situation. Um, and and it's taken a while, but I think I have, mostly murdered my ego.
oh, okay. Because I was actually going to say, like, with that being said, I mean, like, how you obviously are acknowledging that with your own project, Thor and Friends, and you being able to kind of like take that front seat in that project, let's just call it, um, it kind of it satisfies something inside of you to your creative impulses, whereas when you have to collaborate with other people, you're kind of at their mercy.
Yeah, yeah, it certainly does. Like Thor and Friends has been a band for 9 years now, and I was a very reluctant band leader.
Hmm.
Um, I don't like telling people what to do. I actually work construction, and I was never comfortable telling people what to do working construction. I've gotten more comfortable with it. People want to know what you want them to do.
Yeah.
Um, and I've, grown up a little bit, but yeah, I think that I've sort of learned how to be uh a pretty all right band leader. And that band, it's really taken on a life of its own. After COVID happened, we were all just sort of confused about how to move forward and what to do next.
Yeah.
And it was clear that I wasn't going on tour anytime soon. And then all these amazing Austin musicians just showed interest in playing with Thor and Friends. So we started working on a bunch of new music, a bunch of new pieces, and just playing a lot of shows together. Um, and that band really coalesced. There's about usually about 11 or 12 of us. And uh, around 2021, late 21, 22, we just got really good at playing together. And so when it came time to make the most recent Thor and Friends record, we just set up in a big empty auditorium and recorded live. We're not calling it a live record,
Hmm.
um, because apparently that's a terrible move marketing wise.
Right.
Uh, uh, um, so my record company told me so, and I couldn't resist doing some overdubs on it. Um,
Sure.
so it truly isn't an actual live record, but almost everything on there was done in one performance in a
Yeah.
big room with mics all around us.
Yeah.
It was pretty neat. It doesn't sound like anything else I've been a part of. In Swans, we used to record the basic tracks like that in a big room with us all set up. But I don't know, that was like so loud, that we you didn't really. It was so incredibly loud that you didn't get really a lot of room ambience.
Yeah. Sure.
Um, but with this recording, there's a lot more space, and you really can like feel the acoustics of the place.
Sure. And I imagine I can get an idea of what the instrumentation would be like as well, and it's very little, if any, amplification at all. Right.
Yeah, we didn't use. We had a bass player, and she had a bass cabinet, but we put it in the basement so that it wasn't even in the room. Only
Oh.
she could hear it through headphones. We couldn't hear her, and
Huh.
so we didn't have any amplification in the room at all. It was all acoustic.
Yeah, so that gives a certain feel, especially to a big room, if it's like a kind of a theater that you're recording in or something along those lines. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can imagine what that's gonna kind of have. And, to speak to the whole live recording thing, I mean, like, I think there's a lot of people and a lot of bands that record live, but it's not marketed as a live record because, first of all, there's probably not an audience.
Yeah,
Uh, and second, it's like, you take that liberty to have overdubs, but there's a lot of really great bands that, kind of have to do it together in a room, to at least get down the initial tracks and then, do overdubs and so forth. So,
yeah. That was how we always worked in Swans.
and Swans, yeah. Well, let's rewind a little bit. Usually, first of all, thank you for doing this. It's very nice to have you. I've been meaning to speak with you for a very long time, actually. You've been on my short list for quite some time now, Thor.
Sure.
Um, I came to
Happy to
introduce
finally
myself.
meet you.
Yeah, well, I introduced myself to you at your show at Levitation a couple years ago. You were playing at the 13th
Oh,
floor elevators
cool.
venue, was it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 13th floor. Yeah.
Okay, that's what it is. Yeah. I guess they have since moved.
No, it's still in the same place. I'm going to play
Oh,
there again next week.
oh, cool. Okay.
And one of the Black Angels is a co-owner of that venue.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
You know what? I do have to tell you though, right around the time of the pandemic, I learned to use Logic.
Yeah,
It's like the Apple version of Pro Tools.
right.
And man, that changed my life. I
Yeah,
do I do overdubs for people from home all the time. Some of them I never even meet. And like just being able to operate a audio interface and a operating system like that has been like learning to fish.
yeah. Game changer. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
can imagine that, it helps you out being able to be more productive kind of more readily.
Yeah, and I've been doing this for long enough to remember when it was so expensive to go into a studio and do multi-track recording.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the technology is incredible. As a matter of fact, pandemic wise for me as well, I kind of started this the year before the pandemic started. And then it opened up the option of having Zoom and like doing these kind of, virtual conferences, and I was able to speak to people all around the world as opposed to, who was just kind of around in town locally.
Yeah.
So yeah, it worked out pretty well. So we were talking about, I wanted to get back into a little bit about your history if we could. So I guess the first thing is kind of like when you were growing up, you were born in 65 and you grew up in coastal Texas, correct?
Mhm.
So I was just curious, like what music was like for you growing up in
I
the
grew-
house.
Um, so because I was born in 65, what was on the radio, AM and FM radio, was Motown and like all this amazing 70s, 60s and 70s funk and soul. And that was kind of the first music that I really felt like I wanted to be part of, like the Jackson Five and Parliament, all this great funk and soul music.
Hmm.
Um, and that was probably why I wanted to play drums because you know, all these great syncopated beats were part of pop music back then.
Yeah. Oh, pretty cool. Because yeah, I was wondering about that. And I know I've heard you mention in previous interviews about like, the influence that like Motown music had had on you, or at least like that it was there growing up. But I mean, like, so your parents were kind of like fans of that music, and like what were they kind of like showing to you growing up?
My parents didn't show me much music. It was sort of up to us kids to find music. They made everything that we wanted available, but they didn't they were not musicians nor were they passionate about music.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
I had a big brother and a big sister, and they were interested in music, of course. Um, Neither of them have turned out to be musicians. Yeah, it was sort of just self-paced exploration through radio and buying records when I could afford them.
Yeah. And how early do you think like your kind of like affinity for music started?
I think I was about 5 or 6.
Latching onto the radio.
Yeah,
Huh.
and probably even before then, but that's when I started to say, "Wow, this is really amazing. Let's get more Jackson 5 records."
Yeah. Huh. And so your brother and sister, they were older than you, right?
Yeah, my sister is 7 years older. She's really great. Um, she's one of my heroes, and my brother is also one of my heroes. He's 2 years older than me.
Okay. You're the youngest.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. So am I.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I got three older brothers though.
And you all grow up in Rhode Island?
Yeah, we did. We all grew up together. We actually we grew up pretty poor.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we
Same.
actually we actually shared one bedroom for the four of us.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty
Wow.
brutal. Um we
Yeah.
as soon as we could grew up and got out of the house. As soon as I turned 18, I moved out and got my own apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you? I mean, what was so? I mean, like you obviously have a good relationship with your siblings. Did they influence you at all, like musically? You were saying.
Yeah, I mean, my parents grew up during the Depression, so they made it they made it possible for me to learn and play music and have teachers and study music in school. But they didn't want me to grow up to be a musician. But my brother and sister were always very much encouraging um, I mean, the whole family was, but I think my brother and sister were more quick to be excited when I started, playing shows out in public, and
Hmm.
my mom pretty quickly got on board and thought it was pretty cool that I, was traveling the world and playing music.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, when it proves to be like a kind of a thing, like a potential career, I guess that's definitely very exciting. So, you were saying that like, when your siblings, like your sister kind of w was excited for you when you started playing music. So how old were you when you played your first show and like what was that like?
I think I was in my teens, and it was pretty thrilling. Um, but you know, it's funny. It's more fulfilling now than it was then. I mean, the thrill was there, but kind of it was like then it was just sort of about imitation of of musicians that I had seen. I mean, and I do think that that's how we make music. I think we are imitating either musicians or sounds in nature,
Hmm.
but more often we're imitating musicians that we've admired. Um, but the older you get, I mean, yes, it was thrilling to be able to play a concert when I was a teenager. I mean, that was amazingly thrilling, but it's more like a whole completely satisfying experience to play music nowadays, because it's just so cooked in, and all of these influences are so cooked in. I'm
Right.
less thinking about any particular influence, and it's all just sort of,
Yeah.
um, I don't
But
know, it just,
you feel more confident in yourself and your ability too, like
I think so,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess like as a young person, I mean, like I remember playing when I was like 15, like my first shows, it just got so nervous. I literally like kind of seized up and like tensed up because I couldn't even move on stage because I was just so nervous that I didn't enjoy it really. But
Yeah,
yeah, now it comes a little bit more fluid like.
yeah.
Weird.
It's funny. It's funny the way rock and roll in its early years, you were considered like ready for retirement by 30. But nowadays, musicians, it's so nice to have musicians hanging around for longer,
Sure.
and a lot of them do, tons of great work in their later years, like Scott Walker, and
Mm,
like David Bowie,
sure.
and
Leonard Cohen,
Swans, Leonard Cohen, yeah.
Nick Cave, he's doing some pretty good cool
Yeah.
stuff now that he's older. Yeah, no,
Hmm.
that's true. Um, so and that led me to think, what you were just saying about, kind of how when you kind of start out making music, you're essentially trying to, recreate what you understand or what you know, what you've been influenced by musically. And we're here to talk about Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells, which I think that's an interesting choice for you. I mean, I can see it. I can definitely see it and hear it in a lot of the music that you make, as far as this, like, like a pretty steady connection to what you do. I mean, like, how do you feel like that landed with you, and like what do you feel like you took away from that?
Well, when I found that record, I found it in the mid '70s, and I was mostly listening um, to rock records, or still listening to some funk and soul. Um, but to listen to these like huge swaths of instrumental music where there was no verse chorus bridge, it was just like a sort of, there wasn't really ambient music yet,
Right.
um which I really love, and I got into that stuff just a couple of years later when Brian Eno started making those ambient records. um it was just amazing to me that a instrumental piece could be 22 and a half minutes long and sort of start in one place and go to another, but it
Hmm.
wasn't stuffy like I felt like a lot of classical music was. It was I don't know, it was somehow more exciting than any classical music that I had heard to that point. Now I am really into, obviously, Steve Reich and Terry Riley and a
Hmm.
lot of modern classical stuff. I also later got really into early music. Sometime in the 90s, I started buying tons of CDs of early music ensembles, and I still really love that stuff, but for similar reasons. It's instrumental music that, um, because it doesn't have lyrics. It sort of leads you through whatever is going on in your own thoughts, but with a, really beautiful soundtrack. Or it's almost like it's sort of less invasive than listening to like a noisy pop song or something, which I do still love.
Sure, sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess it meanders and yeah, it takes it like you're saying, it kind of takes you on a journey. But I guess you have to kind of maybe you have to have a particular like mind frame for that because um, like I didn't know this record. I only got introduced to this record fairly recently. Like I'm a record seller, I'm a record reseller, and so I go digging a lot for records. And this one I found very early into that career of mine, and I didn't know it, but I kind of knew the image on the record cover. And it just really looked cool. So I was just like, I'll pick this up
Hmm.
and I'll bring it home and I'll just see what it's like. I'll see what happens. And now that I've learned more of the history about it, I'm like, oh, this is a really interesting record because it was like the first record Virgin Records actually ever put out, and it was a hugely successful record too.
Oh
Which
wow!
like I don't know if you knew this, but like when it came out in '73, May 25th, '73, it actually it I guess the first year it was a little slow, but then The Exorcist came out December '73, and then the record sales just kind of like catapulted and it went on to sell like 2.5 million copies in the UK alone. And
Wow!
currently worldwide, I mean, I get the estimate is somewhere around like 15 million.
Wow!
Yeah, it's a huge record, huge. I mean, and so it
That's
actually,
Yeah. That's I didn't know that. That's amazing.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, and so you said that you were exposed to this like in the mid or to late 70s. So, I mean, how old were you? And like, do you remember exactly when it was that you heard it first?
I was probably about 10 years old, so it would have been around 1974 or 5. And probably the reason that I bought the record was because I knew it was the soundtrack to this terrifying movie, but I didn't see the movie until I was an adult.
Oh, okay.
And but I knew, I think maybe I saw the commercials for it and I liked that little piano line.
Oh, right.
So so um yeah, I'm not exactly sure if my brother or sister bought the record. I don't remember buying it, but somehow it was in our house and I just started listening to it over and over and over.
Wild.
And I liked side 2 also, the whole thing.
Yeah. Wild.
It's
And
a,
at 10 years old, that's kind of young, I feel, for something that kind of like advanced.
yeah, and you know what else I really loved? Do you know this piece by Elton John called Funeral for a Friend?
I feel like I've heard it, but I can't think of it.
It's a long instrumental piece. Um and I really thought I'd listen to that over and over and over as well. So something about these sort of long instrumental pieces was really appealing to me when I was little, I mean, I still did grow up listening to lots of 3.5 minute pop bangers, but
Hmm.
I always thought that was neat to have a piece of music that was so long it would be like taking a drug and going on some bizarre trip.
Yeah, yeah,
And
for
it takes a
sure.
while, you know, and it's funny in Thor and Friends, um, the first couple of records have maybe 10 songs on them. So they're not super long, but as the band has evolved, on the new record, there's a piece that's like 19 minutes long almost.
Hmm.
And when we play live, we often do super long versions of our pieces. And I sort of feel like that's how long it takes to, to take that trip.
Sure, sure. I mean, yeah, I can imagine that there certainly feels like a, I don't know, there's a feeling to music, and that, like, I guess you kind of almost like a movie or a play, you kind of have to like uh set up the scenes, and then you don't feel like it's over until you've like reached that I don't want to say climax, but that culmination, the ending for a movie. What do they call that? That third scene. That's the resolve, I
Oh
guess.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, interesting. I mean, that's a very see. I don't understand this about music really. I mean, like I'm definitely more of like a kind of a pop music head personally. But I do appreciate these things and this style of music. I mean, like obviously a lot of the music that you make with Thor and Friends, but in particular, is very much like this. These kind of.
Yeah. I think that I also learned some of this playing live in Swans where we would do just these, and I thought actually performing them was kind of exhausting and sometimes boring. But then after I quit touring with Swans, I went and saw them and I really got it. Like these they would just play these long repetitive instrumental pieces and um yeah, it really does like create a sort of alternate universe that you can just be devoured by.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Um, so now talking about Tubular Bells a little bit more. I mean, I told you it was released on May 25th, 1973. I mean, so you didn't get exposed to this until a couple of years after the fact, but I mean, in 73, so I guess that makes you around 8 years old. I mean, like, what are you doing as an 8 year old?
Um, as an 8-year-old, I think I did play piano by then, just a little bit. Um, and I wasn't good in school, but I was born able to draw really well and paint and sculpt. Like
Hmm.
uh, I was good at I was good at art. Um,
Okay.
my brother and sister were both much better students than me. I was a pretty terrible student, but I was doing a lot of that, riding bikes and drawing and playing
Being a
in the
kid.
woods. Yeah,
Yeah.
being a kid, and a little bit playing piano. I didn't, you know, like piano didn't really grab me. It wasn't until I was 10 years old or 9 that I really took to playing drums, and you know there was no looking back. That was
Yeah.
the decision was made, and I'm still suffering the consequences.
Yeah, and actually that's an interesting thing because I mean, obviously you have a love and affinity for drums and percussion in general. Um, this album has almost no
Yeah,
drums.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, there really isn't. And Thor and Friends doesn't have drums in it. But yeah, it's my first instrument and kind of my first love. I'm not sure. I mean, I still do play drums on records, and I think I just wanted, after playing drums in so many bands for so many years, I wanted to do something different.
Hmm. But you already had experience playing other instruments.
I did, and um yeah, Swans pushed me to become a better vibraphonist, and I was touring so much, even before Swans. I was touring a lot, and this was sort of pre-internet, and it's just often really very boring. And so I would bring like a new instrument on the road and take a couple of lessons before the tour
Hmm.
and just sit around and practice.
Oh,
So I that's how I learned a bunch of different instruments.
hmm. Okay. At the time of the recording of Tubular Bells, Mike Oldfield was only 19.
I know. That's so remarkable. And apparently, like the engineer said, he was just like they worked so hard that he was really unhealthy during the recording of that record. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
mean, from what I had heard, I think it was Tom Newman, the one of the producers of the record, said that he was very depressed. He was in a very bad state constantly, just like kind of wandering around the facility that they were recording in, which was a manor house that Richard how do you what is his name? Brand Branson or Bransford Branson, I think, right?
yeah,
The owner of Virgin Records.
yeah.
So he was wandering around like, and like they constantly would see him just like with tears in his eyes, like throughout the process of the recording.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. He was just very, very overwhelmed, very emotional, very depressed, I guess. Um, and I know that you feel like that yourself, like you have, you have issues with depression. I mean,
Yeah.
so um, I was curious. I mean, like, do you feel like you can work while you're depressed, or do you even kind of like draw any inspiration from sadness?
Um, I it's harder for me to work when I'm in the midst of a severe depression, or maybe almost impossible for me to work. But I have had, because I work in bands, I have had to work while I was in the midst of a depression, and I think it makes it a lot harder.
Hmm.
Uh, but I can muster usually um, the concentration to to do the work. Um, but it just makes everything harder. And I think, I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of speculation about why uh, so many artists do suffer from mental illness, and um, I don't know. That's such a huge topic. It's just almost overwhelming. I mean, one I did a discussion panel on that subject a few years ago, probably 8 years ago, with my sister and a English professor that writes, named Anne Savetkovich. She
Hmm.
writes a lot of books about depression, um, and my cousin, who is a psychiatrist, about why the creative process seems to feed on the mentally ill. Um,
Yeah. Huh.
but we didn't really come up with any answers. One interesting thing that one of the other panelists said was, it may be that the creative process is really nurtured by these sort of like emotional winters that we go into and then come out of. Um,
Hmm. Okay.
and then another thing, that my first psychiatrist, the guy that I really credit for bringing me out of uh, like a really horrible suicidal depression. What the way he explained it to me is that a normal, healthy person's brain has the chemical makeup our to keep our moods within this sort of certain parameter, like within certain parameters. And if you don't have those chemicals, you're you're often wandering into these extreme mood dips. And
Hmm.
I've never gotten at all manic, so I don't have that. I can't relate to that, but I think that in some weird way, doing like that, like riding those mood waves is somehow conducive to the creative process. I would gladly never ride those waves again, but no
Yeah.
such luck.
Right, right. Well, I mean, so I mean, and the follow-up to that was like, do you find any inspiration in the sadness?
Um, hmm. The sadness, um, I think I find more inspiration. Well, perhaps it comes from the deepest, saddest parts, but when I start to feel the real like creative energy is when I'm starting to come out of it.
Okay.
Like when having like if you think of a depressive episode as like a kind of death, coming back from that sort of near dead place and coming alive again and starting to see all the colors again
Hmm.
gives you an appreciation for the colors that um, I I might take for granted if I hadn't been to the horrible place.
Right. Okay.
And
Interesting.
I think I was 19 when I no. I was like 18 or 19 when I first like went into a months long deep depression. I think I've had depression, my whole life, but that's interesting that you say that Mike Oldfield was deeply depressed when he was making Tubular Bells.
Yeah. Yeah. The producer actually, Tom Newman, went on, like I was watching that documentary from the BBC on the making of this album. And near the end of it is when Tom Newman says something about how Mike Oldfield, after the success of Tubular Bells, he really didn't have any other good follow-up to this record. But also, he went to seek out some kind of therapy. There was like this rebirthing therapy that I guess he had gone through, and I guess that changed him in a sense. Like I guess he found some kind of like happiness. He found some exit out of depression,
Hmm.
and he became very productive, and he was making a lot of music, but it lost something. And in Tom Newman's eyes, he was just like it lost like some of the I forget how he said it exactly, but it just didn't have the same kind of feeling that Tubular Bells had. And he said something along the lines of this, like, well, I think it was the struggle with the depression that inspired him and kind of had Tubular Bells kind of came out of. Whereas everything that he had created after that, maybe up until the point even, I mean, he's gone on to create so many records. I mean, I'm not going to say yeah, every single record was like that, but that those following records just didn't have that same power to them.
Yeah, I that's interesting. I've listened to other Mike Oldfield works and they're nice. I like them, but yeah, there's nothing like
Hmm. Like
that.
Tubular Bells. Yeah.
Yeah, that one is really special. And that makes me think also about Joy Division. I think
Oh,
I think that I think that I love New Order, but I think that Ian Curtis, that was another, those were two or three if you count that 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 other record that came out after he died.
Right.
Um,
Closer, was it?
maybe there was
Yeah.
there's kind of three,
Right.
um, but one is just like I think a compilation of a bunch of tracks.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. Yeah.
But the two main ones are Unknown Pleasures and Closer. I mean,
Okay.
I think that those were really driven by his despair, and those are amazing records.
Right. And then
So
New
yeah,
Order like continued on without him essentially. And then yeah, it had good music, just not the same
good.
kind of vibe, really.
Yeah, totally different vibe. And yeah, and I would like to think that you don't have to go to hell to make um
Good music.
interesting. Yeah, I don't think that you do, but I think that people who frequent hell often do make really interesting music.
Yeah. No, I mean I have to agree with you. I mean like I mean I'm a sucker for a sad song really
Yeah,
and I feel like that kind of is the thing that comes to me most naturally when I try to write myself. And that's kind of why I was asking you is this like if you find inspiration in sadness because I think I kind of do, oddly enough. I don't know.
yeah. I think I I think I must. To me, it's like a thing. Like if I think of sadness, it's a thing that's always kind of trying to kill me. Um, but I know that it is all mixed up
Hmm.
with the thing that makes me constantly creative also.
Yeah.
So I guess it's hard to separate the two or to you know
Right. Well, I mean, if you're saying that you feel that you are most inspired when you're coming out of a depressive episode, um, yeah, I mean, maybe that is the thing. Maybe that's like now that you are feeling a little bit more balanced, a little bit more regular, let's just call it,
yeah
and you feel like being productive again. I mean, and you reach for instruments. You take most immediate um, immediate like life experience you've had, which happens to be this depression and this depressive episode, and maybe you pull things away from it. I mean, I'm not sure because a lot of your music is so instrumental. I mean, like you're not a vocalist per se. You don't really write lyrics.
no
So everything has to come through the music. Everything has to be like emotive in a way.
yeah and I really love when instrumental music can do that.
Yeah,
I also love Leonard Cohen and Bob Dylan and people
sure.
who do it with words, but um yeah, I think the the most and I mean the music that I feel most compelled to make is huge long instrumental pieces.
Hmm.
I always
Yeah.
thought it would be fun to play some rhythm instrument like in a dance group, like in Sly and the Family Stone.
Uh-huh.
Just
Sure.
for pure joy. And I just recently watched that new Sly Stone documentary. It was so beautiful.
Oh, cool. I gotta watch that.
Oh
Yeah.
man, you're in for such a treat.
All right, cool. I definitely got to put it on. I don't watch much these days, but definitely on my list.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking about your inspiration, I mean, like, I was wondering what inspires you, like when you go into that process where you're kind of feel like you're ready to create. I mean, is there anything that you think about specifically, or is there any kind of like music that helps trigger your creativity, do you feel?
Um, so a lot of yeah, I have a really long answer for that. there's an app called Radio O,
Okay.
and and you either open it on a laptop or on your phone, and it shows you a map of the entire world, and then it gives you each decade that we've been able to record music, which started around 1900, and you
Okay.
pick a country and a decade, and it's user sourced, and it'll just play you all the records that it has from that decade from that country.
Whoa.
So yeah, it's amazing. um so and I at a very young age started getting fascinated with music from all over the world. Um and so that is just a huge source of inspiration. And because we play marimbas and vibraphones and things, there's almost always a way to, like, all of the music from Ethiopia is played in a slightly different key than the major or minor keys that we use.
Hmm.
Um, and like, just to learn that key is a it's like, oftentimes when a Thor and Friends piece um gets made, it's because I've learned some new thing, either from some music from some faraway part of the globe, um or I've learned, for me, like, much comes from complicated drum rudiments that I then move around on the marimba
Hmm.
until they some interesting arpeggio results from that. I mean, and speaking of arpeggios, Tubular Bells is, it starts out with this beautiful odd time signature arpeggio,
Hmm.
um, and that's still, like, really just such a mesmerizing, sort of neurologically stimulating thing for me to hear, is arpeggios. So Thorn Friends music usually is born out of me experimenting with different stickings of arpeggios on a marimba,
Sure. But there,
or sometimes on a piano. But I don't play piano live with Thor and Friends, and I'm not a good piano player, so I don't even consider myself a good marimba player, but I can play well enough to, play an interesting arpeggio. And
sure, sure. Yeah. I get that. I mean, like, I don't think that people need to be classically trained in any sense in order to be able to create music on any instrument. You just kind of have to be able to make the sound on the instrument.
yeah, yeah, you
So,
just kind of have to want to.
yeah, yeah, and just figure it out really. Um, Another thing about like your creative process that I was kind of curious about was that you obviously have collaborated with so many musicians over the course of your career, and you live in a great music city, Austin.
Yeah,
Are you invited to perform with friends like all the time, and or how often do you find yourself like thrown into a performance with little to no prep?
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really fun. I'm usually confident that I can wing it, or figure it out. Sometimes people have seen me, like, play trumpet on stage. Well, I'm not a real trumpet player, so sometimes someone will ask me to, like, sit in on one of these instruments that I barely know how to play, and I kind of have to backpedal a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, I'm just a drummer, but yeah, it does happen a lot, that I have to get on stage with some friends and wing it, and it's really fun.
Right. Does that ever like deter you from like going out to go to shows that you want to go see?
I don't think so. Like, I usually don't think it's gonna happen just because I'm there.
Right, right. Okay, there's a little bit of a kind of uh like discussion prior.
Yeah, hopefully.
You know somebody's coming to town and so forth, or if you are
Yeah.
on tour, you know who's kind of in the neighborhood and is in the area.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
that's usually how it happens. Like they'll say, "Hey, do you want to come in and sit in on this song?" Then I, you know, have a day or so to sit with the recording and figure out what to do.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I mean, it's definitely a skill. I mean, I'm so kind of in admiration of people that do that. Like, there's a guy locally here, Hash Vias, who was playing with Thievery Corporation as their bass player,
Uh-huh.
and he's kind of one of those guys. I mean, he just plays with everybody all the time. Like, anytime you go out, there's a good chance you're probably going to see him playing with somebody. And I'm just like, how do you sit in on for a whole set on bass? I mean, like, don't you have to learn all those songs? And
Yeah.
he just somehow figures it out. Like I don't know what it is. Yeah.
I wonder if he's like just a super fast learner.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm, I don't think that I am. I mean, I really don't think that I am, but
No, I don't either. I'm not for me. I don't, at least I'm saying I'm not a fast learner. And it takes me a long time to get comfortable too. Like that's the other thing too, is like
Mhm.
if you're going to be on stage, you want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And if I don't know what I'm playing, I'm not going to be comfortable.
Yeah, like earlier in this interview, you asked like what my young younger days performing were
Hmm.
like. I would say that they were like now I feel so comfortable playing music on stage. And I don't think that I did when I was younger, but it wasn't stage fright. It was more like I don't know. It was I hadn't gotten nearly had I just hadn't gotten my ego enough out of the way, or I hadn't gotten to where the word you used was perfect. I just hadn't gotten comfortable enough playing music or
Right.
something. I was like trying too hard or something.
Right. And isn't that strange too, how like, you know, as a teenager you're up there performing and who knows for why? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, like you have this impulse, like you're a fan of music, you obviously been listening to stuff, you really enjoy it. You start learning how to play stuff. I imagine maybe you did a cover or so, you
Yeah,
know,
tons of covers. Yeah.
tons of covers. Okay. So I mean, but like what compels people to go out there and actually perform in front of people? And then
No,
especially when you
because
like the first experience isn't great. So I mean, it's
right.
just like, why do you keep on doing it?
Yeah, because some people don't do it at all. Some
No.
people
Yeah.
never do it and never would dream of going on stage and performing for people. I
Right.
don't I don't I don't know that my wife plays in Thor and Friends. Her name is Peggy.
Hmm.
She's she's my hero. I don't know that I think she kind of hates being on stage and having people look at her.
Yeah.
She 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 was a like a punk rock drummer when we got together, but she's really smart and determined. So I would play these complicated um, arpeggios, or I would play like two time signatures at once, and she would just figure it out, and she would start doing it too.
Hmm.
But so she loves to play drums, and she I think enjoys playing marimba to a lesser degree, but she does like it. But I don't think she ever wanted to go to be on stage. I think
Right.
that's just like a pesky part of it all that she'll tolerate just because she has to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that inspiration is. I mean, I don't know if it was because it's because you're asking her to participate in it. Um, 'Cause, and
Yeah.
especially as an older person, I mean, like, you know, I mean, as a kid, it's weird, like to think like you're, you know, this young kid that has no idea about the music biz whatsoever, and you're just compelled to like play a show to try to whatever, be in a band, whatever that means, you know, you're
Yeah.
learning. As an adult, I don't know. I mean, like my wife has the same problem. She's not a musician per se, but she definitely has an ear. And like so I definitely have caught her playing things. Like she actually has like a little what are those thumb instruments
Oh
called?
yeah, kalimba.
Yeah, she has a kalimba and she's just been like figuring it out. And I was just like, that's so cool. Like you can play the kalimba. She's just like, yeah. I was just like, but if I ever asked her to do that on stage or even to do it on a recording with me, there's no way she would do it.
Yeah,
She'd be like, no, just
yeah.
absolutely not. So weird. All right, well, so let's see. Talking about Tubular Bells again, I did mention about the sales and like how popular it had become very quickly. And so I was just curious, like, does it phase you in any way to know about the success of the album and how that had like launched Richard Branson's career and like Virgin, the whole Virgin Corporation, and that now, he's one of these assholes trying to blow up, like blast off into space on the money that
Ugh.
Tubular Bells has brought him.
Oh, that's so disgusting. I think, like the music uh, throughout the entire time that I've been in the music business, like nothing was ever more boring to me than the music business. Like the business side of it, I just find mind-numbingly boring, which is why I have a manager now. And and like I have help with all of that sort of tedious side of things, and
Hmm.
it's wonderful to work with a record label and have them deal with so much of that tedium. But I think like I'm really impressed. I don't care about the music of Ani DeFranco, but I know that she like ran a label and she had like a real business head for running her own label and stuff. That's just amazing to me that somebody can kind of do both things. Yeah, I didn't know that um, that guy was a disgusting billionaire that wants to go to space. But um,
Yeah, yeah.
another interesting thing about Mike Oldfield that I only learned a couple of years ago, he had has a sister named Sally, who's
Hmm.
an amazing singer. And she, not, she was sort of doing what Kate Bush did, like maybe a couple of years before Kate Bush did it. This sort of like operatic singing over sort of pop music, like real emotive. And my favorite track by her, I think it's called Blue Water.
Hmm.
It's just
Okay.
it's so beautiful, and a lot of the instruments on this track are being played by Mike Oldfield. It's
Yeah. Was
just
this was this her band, the Sally Angie?
I don't think so. If I look up the track, I have to look it up just under Sally Oldfield.
Oh, okay. Weird.
So if you
Yeah.
look up Sally Oldfield Blue Water, and what happens, and this often happened during the 1970s because of the enormous popularity of disco, is it's this real interesting track that's just going along, um, and then it suddenly gets devoured by this disco groove, which is a whole lot less interesting than the beginning part of the song. Um, it's really pretty cheesy, but the beginning of the song is completely beautiful.
Hmm.
And don't get me wrong, I love disco, but it was back then it was just like a, well, we have to put this disco beat on here if we want this to sell records. And
Sure. Yeah, yeah. Selling records. It's whatever it takes, I guess, you know?
yeah, I mean that is the ugly side of it.
Right.
Just
Well,
yeah.
there are some people who just kind of go for that hook, line, and sinker, just anything to be famous, anything to make the sales happen. But there's obviously some people with some merit that just think, I want to make what I want to make. If you can't sell it, I don't care. Like this
Yeah.
is what it's going to be. Kind of like Mike Oldfield and Tubular Bells. I mean, he
Yeah.
took
And
no what's the word for that? He like took not that he didn't take chances, but he took no compromise in how it
yeah,
was going to be.
Yeah, it seems like such a weird record. It seems like he was just a super musician who had just I don't know, had all these weird ideas.
Yeah, and he was just able to run with them. It's kind of insane.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. We should talk about maybe some interesting facts about this record. Here's an interesting fact about the recording session that I found. Oldfield had difficulty in producing a sound from the tubular bells, as he wanted a loud note from them, but both the standard leather covered and bare metal hammers did not produce the volume he wanted. In the end, Tom Newman obtained a heavier claw hammer, and Oldfield used it to produce the desired sound intensity, but cracked the bells in the process.
Wow. Yeah, I cannot imagine playing, classical tubular bells, which are bronze, with a claw hammer, because yeah, you do play. You're supposed to play them with these. It's rolled up rawhide,
Okay.
and uh, that's so interesting. I'm going to listen to it again and imagine Mike Oldfield playing those with a claw hammer.
Yeah,
Um,
and just whacking them because I mean, like he ended up cracking the bells.
yeah. Um, so in Swans, I play tubular bells a lot, and we rented a set of tubular bells for touring
Oh,
for the first couple of years, and it was just such a huge thing to move around
right.
that I built a smaller set of tubular bells. First, I built them out of steel, and they sounded pretty cool, but they didn't ring for very long. Then I built them out of aluminum,
Hmm.
and they sounded amazing. And we ended up using those for 3 or 4 years on the road and on a lot of the Swans records. And I've never seen aluminum tubular bells before, but they're sort of more overtony, and
Yeah.
they're really really resonant. Most vibraphones have aluminum keys. Aluminum is a strange, uh, it's super light. It's very brittle. Um, so if I hit those with a claw hammer, they'd be done with pretty quickly.
Yeah, right. But they're more resonant, I guess, right?
Yeah, they're super resonant.
Huh.
There was a
Well,
com- there was a company that made these super finely tuned wind chimes. Some of them were like 20 feet tall here, called Music of the Spheres, and they used aluminum to make their wind chimes. They just sound tremendous.
yeah, interesting. Huh. Cool. Well, so this made me think of you, this story about Mike Oldfield and playing the tubular bells. Like I feel like you have like this mythological image, right? Like you kind of taken on the persona of like Thor, the Norse god, you
Yeah,
know? Because you have the look. I mean, and obviously, you play the percussion instruments, and I believe you even play with a hammer, like
yeah.
uh like on the back cover of here, where you see you holding the hammer,
Oh
the,
yeah,
the medicine singers.
yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I mean, like, is what other instruments do you play a hammer with?
Uh, I did build this wood thing that has to be played with hammers. If you can picture like five logs laid out on a rack, and these are
Hmm.
this really hard wood called Osage orange. Um, and they're somewhat tuned, but they're tuned kind of roughly, and you play that instrument with wood hammers. And we did this other thing just because hammers and Norse mythology um, is what we're talking about. We did this other thing, and it was not my idea, but it was called dumpster fire. And I built um, a bunch of wood hammers, some of which were about 4 feet long, with wood hammer heads that were 8 inches in diameter. And
Hmm.
we put two big construction dumpsters in a parking lot, and we had King Coffee, the one of the drummers from the Butthole Surfers, was part of it, and we had and Peg, my wife, was part of it. And we played these dumpsters with these huge hammers. It was just so loud. And we also had um, some robots that were playing these little tapping solenoids. Um, so we were playing along with a computer sort of drum machine that was tapping on the dumpsters too.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah, hammers are, I don't know how that all worked out, but because I was, yeah, but yeah, hammers are a recurring theme in my life, and I'm a carpenter.
Right,
So
right. And how many instruments have you broken in your lifetime?
man, I've broken a lot of cymbals,
Hmm.
um, a lot of drum heads, of course.
Sure.
I don't think I've ever cracked a vibraphone key. I bought a vibraphone once that had a key that had been beaten out of tune, and had to send it to Chicago to get retuned. Um, but you get, you know what, you get to where you can get that reaction out of the instrument. I mean, the longer you do it without actually hitting it as hard as it might seem like you're hitting it. And a thing that I started to do in Swans, when I was just like bashing them on these two huge China cymbals, I started to use this kind of plumbing pipe called PEX,
Oh,
PEX,
yeah.
polyethylene crosslink is what that stands for. Um, I started to use PEX just for certain parts of the music because I could hit those huge China cymbals and it would flex enough that it wouldn't break them, but it was just as loud as if I was hitting them with sticks, and
Hmm.
it did a lot less damage because Phil and I were, just breaking so many cymbals for a while when that band first started touring again in
Yeah.
2010, and that was just too heartbreaking to break all these beautiful cymbals.
Right. Yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
yeah.
Pex was a lot more forgiving.
Yeah, PEX is like that hollow kind of plastic tubing, isn't it?
Yeah, it comes in sort of whitish clear, blue, and red, so that when you're
Right.
installing water lines, you keep track of which are the hot ones and which are the cold ones. But
Right.
yeah, it's all the same stuff, but they just color code it so that you don't confuse what you're doing.
Yeah, right.
I do a bunch of plumbing work, so I'm familiar with it.
Yeah. So
I had
PEX
some.
was readily available.
It's always readily available.
Okay. Another kind of interesting fact about this album, the caveman section on is the only part of Tubular Bells that features a drum kit. Are you familiar?
Oh.
You're familiar with the caveman section, obviously, right?
Yeah, is it on? I guess it's on side two.
Yes, it's the second half. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the drum kit is actually played by Steve Broughton of the Edgar Broughton Band.
Huh.
Okay. And Hayworth recalled that Branson was getting impatient and pressured Oldfield to deliver the album and to include vocals on one of the tracks so he could release it as a single.
Wow.
So this is one of those only things that, Mike was kind of positioned to make a compromise on the record. But Mike, in his in his particularly difficult ways, was so angered by Branson's suggestion that he returned to the manor where he drank half a bottle of Jameson's whiskey from the studio cellar and demanded that the engineer take him to the studio where, intoxicated, he screamed his brains out for 10 minutes
Wow.
and into a microphone, and the incident left Oldfield so hoarse that he was unable to speak for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, the engineer ran the tape at a higher speed during the recording so that upon playback, the tape ran at normal speed, thus dropping the pitch of the voice track and producing the quote unquote Piltdown Man vocals listed on the credits.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, so that's just 19-year-old drunken Michael Oldfield screaming his head off throughout that second half of the record.
Man, poor guy.
Who Oldfield? Who Mike Oldfield?
Yeah.
Poor guy because he had to do that, or I mean, I guess he was put in the position where Branson had requested that he put vocals on the album. So
Yeah.
I think it's pretty genius, really. I mean, like
Yeah.
I mean, to make the compromise, he has to say like, okay, I put vocals on it for you, just like you asked.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. But I was like, but I was thinking about all of your recorded work, and we were talking about this a little bit before. It's just like, but have you done any singing?
Yeah, I do sing a little bit. Um, I've sang backup in groups that I've played in. But uh when there's singing on Thor and Friends records, it's usually some singer. It's been like Michael Gira and Jarboe and Jen Wasner from the band Wyoke.
Hmm.
Uh, it's usually guest singers. I do like singing, and on the record that's coming out in May, I sang with the choir that sings on that record. So we made that record live, but then we went back with a choir and had them sing on parts of it, and I sang with that choir. And I'm kind of interested in doing more choral singing. Um,
Hmm.
it just felt amazing to sing with a bunch of people. Like, it just felt
Sure.
really joyful. So I think that's a thing that I'm gonna try to do more of.
Oh, okay. But no leads for you.
No, no, I don't need to sing words or anything. And that's when Thorn Friends on Thorn Friends. No, on Thorn Friends records, when there is singing, what I tell the singer usually is I don't really want words. I just want you to think of yourself as another of the instruments.
Sure.
And in that band, there's no solos and there's no, nobody. If somebody is too good at an instrument, I don't want to know about it. I want it to sort of seem like just a big fabric of a lot of simple parts that sound
Yeah.
interesting together, but taken by themselves, they're, just pretty simple.
Right, right. And you also like when you have people coming in as collaborators, you want them to kind of put their own kind of uh charm
Yeah,
into the
indeed.
project and like kind of bring their thing, bring whatever it is that they do.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I've worked with people who do not want you to do that. They want to tell you exactly what to do. And I've gotten so that I can work that way. But of course, I prefer a lot more freedom. I think anybody does.
Sure, sure. Do you read music?
I do, but very slowly. And I always have read it very slowly. I started reading music when I was like eight or nine, and even studied it through college. But I can't. I never was very good at sight reading.
Hmm.
Um, I can read percussion music pretty well, um, but it's not something I use. I certainly don't use it every day. Sometimes I'll write down a little figure just to remember it. But mostly now with all these amazing recording devices, including the iPhone, I just play the instrument and record it rather than try to write it out.
Right. Okay. So, but in the situation that somebody is hiring you to work on their project, um, and let's say, I mean, has there been a situation where they bring you music and it's just like, we want you to play this?
Um, let's see. Um, a little bit, but usually it's I'm not the guy for that. I'm not like the best person for reading a chart and getting it exactly like written.
Hmm.
But a lot of the time people will give me like the chord, like if they want me to play vibraphone on something that they've done, they'll write out the chords, and that is very helpful.
Yeah.
Um, and if they do give me sheet music, if I have some time to work with it, I can do it. I just can't. I've just never been a fast sight reader. I think it's another way that my brain is kind of squirrely. Like I actually read really slowly too. But
Yeah.
my mom she was a school teacher, like I said, and you said your mom was, right?
No, 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 not
Oh,
a school teacher.
oh no, my friend Chris, who I was hanging out with just before this interview, said that he was from a family of teachers.
Oh, okay.
Um, um, my mom tested kids for dyslexia,
Oh,
and she said I didn't have it, but I insist that there's something squirrely about the part of my brain that does reading, and I do really
yeah.
love to read,
Yeah.
but I read pretty slowly.
Well, I mean, at least you still can.
Yeah,
I kind of have the same problem. I feel I find myself like rereading the same sentence over and over, like
yeah.
at least 3 or 4 times. And so, yeah, I don't really like reading just for that reason because I'm just like, it's just gonna take me too long.
What do you think about what? How do you feel about audiobooks?
I haven't gotten into them really. I mean, I listen to podcasts,
Yeah.
I listen to things and I feel like that, like I grasp things pretty well, but I haven't ventured into actually trying to listen to a book.
You know what? I right after the election, I have this app called Libby, and it works through my public library, which I love
Oh
public
yeah.
libraries.
Yep.
And Libby, you can check out audiobooks for free. Um, I had to read Pema Chodron's When Things Fall Apart.
Hmm.
It's just a book about accepting when things fall apart. Um, and that was really helpful. So yeah, I'm kind of into the Libby app. I've
Sure.
li- I listened to a few Thich Nhat Hanh books on it too. He's a Buddhist teacher.
Yeah, yeah. I just saw my wife has one of his books, compilation of some sort. I'm not sure exactly which one or what it is, but
Yeah,
yeah, she's a spiritual person, so I got all that stuff in my house.
yeah, good.
Now I just got to pick it up and start reading it. Um, so Thor, I have one more question for you before we wrap this up.
Okay.
Um, Back to the Tubular Bells, the bent bell on the cover of the album has become the image most associated with Oldfield, appearing on the cover of every Tubular Bells sequels album, and it also is the logo of his personal music company, Oldfield Music Limited. Um, if you had to think about a visual representation for your career, what do you think it would be?
Wow. Well, hmm, man, I'll have to give that some thought. You were talking earlier about hammers,
Hmm.
and because I am a woodworker and a carpenter and I play tubular bells, which are played with hammers, um, usually wooden hammers. And my name is Thor. I think if there was a visual representation, I mean, it probably would be that Mjolnir, or however you say that, Hammer of
Oh,
Thor.
Mjolnir. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, if I have to settle on one.
Have to be a hammer, I guess.
I guess so. Guess that's what I'm stuck with.
Yeah. I mean, how does that feel for you? I mean, like I was saying, it like feels like you've taken on this persona. It doesn't feel like you necessarily were going for it, but just the way you look. I mean, the instruments you play, kind of all plays in together. You know.
It does, and I did not set out for that to be to all come together like that, but I guess like you just have to live up to whatever name you're given.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Um,
it's an interesting one. I mean, James is not really all that interesting. There's not really
right,
much there's no baggage that comes along with that. But
right. You're pretty free to do whatever you want.
pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. But so now you were mentioning earlier this live recording. I mean, well, maybe we shouldn't say that, but this new recording that you've been making with Thor and Friends. I mean, so that's the new record coming out.
Yeah, it comes out in May.
Cool.
Yeah, we recorded for 2 days straight, just all day, the whole like 11 or 12 piece ensemble. There were 11 of us playing, and then one guy was watching, and then later he went back and put guitar overdubs on it. I'm not sure why.
You don't have any say in this. You just anyone can show up and put whatever they want on your recordings.
No, no. That group, as I said before, was sort of it sort of came together post COVID, and we had that group of 11 players had been playing together um, for a couple of years, playing those pieces for a couple of years. I'm not sure why Jonathan, the guitar player, didn't just track with us, but we did all of his parts as overdubs.
Hmm. Oh, okay. So he was supposed to be there. You just
Yeah, he was supposed to be there, and he was there, but he didn't track with us. I don't remember why he didn't just track while we were tracking. But
yeah. Okay. So this is record five.
yeah, that's right. And
Will it, is it
one
going
of
to be five?
it's called Heathen Spirituals
Oh, okay.
because we're I think most of the members of this group are atheists or agnostics or whatever. But it feels like spiritual music because like Tubular Bells, it is a meditation that sort of moves you from one place to another. And I do think that in some way music can work like a hallucinogenic drug. It can I think it I mean I know that it has like really profound effects on our neurochemistry.
Yeah.
Um, and so this music does feel, and a lot of that I mentioned earlier that I really loved a lot of early music. A lot of that stuff, like Hildegard von Bingen, a lot of that was spiritual music, like choral um, music. That stuff sounds amazing to me. I have no intentions of ever becoming Catholic, but that was like the early music of the Catholic Church, which I
Hmm.
think is the worst organization ever to have been formed. But
Yeah. But they've made some good music.
they made
Some,
some good music and they built some nice buildings over in Europe.
yeah. Well, so like at least they got a couple things going for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, so then the record will be coming out in May. Touring plans? Do you have anything like that in the works?
I'm gonna play. Thor and Friends is gonna, or a sort of alternate version of Thor and Friends is gonna play at Big Ears, and that's in a couple of weeks in Knoxville. It's like, I think it's the best experimental music festival in America.
Hmm.
Um, it's an amazing festival. Um, so we're gonna play that. I'm playing there also with a band that I play in called Water Damage. And so a bunch of those players are sort of learning Thor and Friends music so that they can be Thor and Friends for that show. And then yeah, there's a good chance that we'll play up in your neck of the woods in late summer.
Hmm. Okay, cool. Please let me know because I tend to miss out on things. I'm not paying very good attention a lot of the times.
I will.
So,
Yeah, it would be lovely to meet you in person.
yeah, and I definitely want to see you guys play, especially if it's going to be up here. I mean, I was lucky enough to catch you in Austin during the Levitation.
Yeah.
So yeah, anytime I can, I will.
Okay, great.
Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me.
All right. Thank you, James, for the invitation.
Absolutely, and hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Okay, yeah, count me in.
Cool, man.
All
Thanks,
right.
Thor.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
You too, man. See ya. Vinyl Vision is a Psychic Static production. Theme song written and performed by Jeff Robbins of 123 Astronaut.